Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. And we do sessions every single day for the TradeStation Masterclass. Today is Easylanguage Answered. It is July 21st, and very soon we're going to pass the microphone over to John Bruch. He's the Director of Easylanguage Services for TradeStation Technologies. And if you've been to this class before, you know that is all based on your questions, and we'll try to provide answers to them. Before we get to those questions, let's go through some of the disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that we talk about is for educational purposes only. It is not a recommendation of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone, especially if you're trading risky products like options or futures that are leveraged. Past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. We need to be aware of the risks. And for those that need a little bit more information on these disclosures, you can go to the link that is shown right there on the PowerPoint slide, www.tradestation.com/important-information. So thank you guys for being here. There's a couple ways that you can submit questions to class. You can do it on the chat window. Just make sure that you set the chat windows to everyone. There's a little drop down right there at the bottom, and that way everyone can see your questions and we can all follow along. You can also use your microphones. So I'm going to give you guys the ability to unmute. However, I do ask that you keep those microphones muted throughout the presentation to avoid any background noise. So thank you guys for being here. All right. And John, are you there?
Hi, Jesus. Yes, I am. How are you? How is everybody? Hello.
Hi, John. Thank you for being here. And we're
My
excited about class and see what's coming up. I was just talking to John earlier, and we didn't get any questions on email, so we don't really have anything prepared for you guys, unless you don't have anything prepared, right, John?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about things that you probably have questions on right now, and we'll address those questions in particular. So we're all ears. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to everyone. So thank you for joining us today. A couple things that I wanted to announce, and I'm just going to take this opportunity to do so, is that tomorrow at 12:30, we have our guest speaker. We're going to have Frank Choi, Vice President of Product Management. So it's going to be a great opportunity to connect with Frank, and he's running product management, and see what his vision for TradeStation is. Maybe we can ask him some questions about the technology as well. All right, that's 12:30 tomorrow Eastern time. Excellent. All right. Marcel has a good question. Thank you for reminding me, Marcel. John, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. VWAP, the estimated indicator that we have in TradeStation, it resets every single day as it is intended to. Is there any way to make it include multiple trading sessions? Like if you wanted to have a 3-day VWAP or something to that effect?
You could. Let me share my screen here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we see it.
All right, let me switch over here. And let's see, I can hide those meeting controls. And then, let's see. Whoops, I hit add strategy. We can go to add study and look for the VWAP. Estimated, we called it, because the true VWAP, as you guys know, takes into account every trade tick and the volume thereof. But rather than trying to download this one tick data and calculate a VWAP from that, the estimated VWAP, looks like I got Oh yeah, there's bands. You can put bands around it too. I forgot about that. The estimated VWAP uses an average. So let's go take a look at the code and see what we can do if we wanted to. I believe there's just a trigger in the code that causes the reset to happen every day. So if we don't want to do that, we would have to mess with that trigger. So let's take a look here. And you might be confused too. You say, well, what about this guy? What's this VWAP? We got VWAP here and VWAP estimated. Well, this VWAP uses the quote field. There's a quote field. The difficulty with this guy being that it uses a quote field, it's intended for radar screen only, and it is real time only. But we can look at it because it's a good way to compare the true, quote unquote, true VWAP calculated tick by tick with the estimate. Okay, but let's open up this code. And just to stay on the same kind of topic for just one more second here, let's look at, okay, so the quote field, I believe, yeah, see how that turns blue, the keyword VWAP, how it turns blue? That keyword is the quote field. So if you say, look, I don't care what yesterday's VWAP was, you could just use custom one line. Let's go here and put custom one line on the chart, set the input for the formula to VWAP. VWAP. It doesn't have to be all caps. I'll just put it like that since it's an acronym. And actually, I'm going to change the color and make this a little thicker so we can distinguish it from the estimated. Okay. So and then we need to see how it went real time only. It just changed. Did you see that? Okay, so let me put this up in here and put it on the same axis. And, you see they're pretty close actually. So, but you'll see the quote field version, the bright yellow one. Let me turn off some of this other stuff. The bright yellow one, it plots the same value in all of the history. So, and that's the behavior of a quote field. A quote field has only the current value, and that current value is the value on all historical bars. And then when you get to real time, it starts updating. And let's go to even a smaller bar interval just so we can get a little distinction there in the value. But anyway, okay, so now we understand a little more. We say, okay, what happened to my yellow line? We understand, okay, there it is. Oh, how interesting. Okay, the scaling is, I see, there it is. Okay, the scaling, and then the magenta and blue lines are the bands around the estimated VWAP. Okay.
Yeah, it seems to have set your scaling to fixed or something, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's actually scaling on the chart. It's just that this is a bit distant due to the range that I had, and I used that center last price.
Oh, okay.
So okay, so there's our yellow line with the quote field value, and then these are the magenta line is the estimated VWAP, and the blue and orange lines are bands, that are put by that was a request to have these the ability to have those bands around the VWAP, but you can turn that off with an input. But anyway, let's see, if we wanted to include more than one day, in the VWAP calculation, then we would have to, okay, so here's a switch case that runs based on bar type on every tick. And it says, oh, okay, are we on a tick, minute, or second bar? If we are, and the CS, which is current session.
Good morning, guys. Before you,
Hey,
do you want to make a copy?
yeah, we can definitely, yes. So, let me verify that again. Actually, you're right. So, let me save this as, EA, easy language answered, as we often do. We do it that way. Okay, so now we have a new indicator. Good point, Marcel. And we can go here and we say, okay, if the current session is not equal to the session of a bar ago, that's when we reset the VWAP values. So we would basically have to replace this with the criteria that we want. And, that could be based on day of week or differences between dates, or depending on how we wanted to do it, we could have a counter that resets it every 2 or 3 days, or not, but this is where the code would have to be changed if we wanted to. Is there a specific amount of time that we want to have it be more than a day?
I don't know, the question was, can we control that somehow?
Yes, you'd have to edit the code, but it's here. It's switching on when the current session, which is contained in this CS variable,
Right.
is not. It changes when the session changes. It resets. So.
So I guess you'd have to change where the code resets, and
correct.
I guess you can use date boundaries maybe. So let's say you can use date if date equals so and so, and you can set specific dates to start and stop the calculation. Is that maybe?
You could.
Okay.
It really depends on when you want to reset it or how you want it to work, because kind of, by definition, we're going to take an average over some period, right? So
right.
We would need to say what that period is going to be if it's not going to be just the current day.
All right,
so
right.
to clarify, what I was thinking was, just as you can do with average volume, you can adjust it so that you can see a period of time. It'd be great for the VWAP to match that, right? So let's say if it was a period of three sessions, or even intraday, right? But 3 sessions, or 1 month or 1 week or something like that, and then the price is averaged by the same, essentially, way we would look at average price lines.
Okay, yeah. This one may not be amenable to a pure averaging, and I'll tell you why. Because what the VWAP does that's a little different is, you could think of it as the length of the average gradually increasing. So what happens is it says, okay, start on the first bar, and then when the second bar comes, include the second bar in the average too. Oh, okay, we're on the third bar. Okay, include that in the average now. Oh, the fourth bar just came in. Okay, include that. And the average gets bigger and bigger, so that over the course of the day, you're gradually getting the average price weighted by volume for the entire day. But it builds up gradually. So you it's not really a thing that you say, well, I could do like a 5 bar. It wouldn't really make sense, because the average would be including 1 bar, then 2 bars, then 3 bars, then 4, then 5 bars, and then it would go back to including only 1 bar.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's a little hard to explain, but
yeah, it makes sense, so I guess the easiest way would be to have a starting date that we can, compare to the starting point on the chart to the bar date. Would you think that's the easiest? Because I mean, looking back, a number of bars, it's trickier, right? To get this
well, right,
calculation
it's
started.
right, because it could reset right in the middle of the day. And then
Right.
in other words, this is sort of an accumulative calculation. Throughout the course of the day, it's gradually weighting all the volume that occurs.
Right.
And if you said, well, in other words, you'd have to figure out a different kind of volume weighting scheme if you didn't want it to do that. It sounds like maybe a different kind of average would be more appropriate or something. I'm not sure, but
So if I can, let me share my thought process, right? So you have with futures, you have sessions that are not traditional, obviously, right? Same thing with Forex, but let's stick with futures. And let's say, just like I think within this week, there was a rollover for September, right? And so that futures option is issued at a certain time, and that obviously that volume will build, right? Based on interest and whatever else. As we move on, there's, it'd be great to be able to capture that at a period of time and have and monitor that price. And I guess based on a fixed date or some date that you can say, okay, go back X days, or something like that to match.
Like, would that be like on a daily chart or intraday?
Well, I mean, I usually look at it intraday, but I'll take it anyway. You know what I mean?
But
maybe you're right. I mean, maybe it's a different.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a different way to be able to think about it as it builds. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. You're thinking for the whole duration of the existence of the option,
or at minimum for the week, which
for a week
starts on the Sunday.
You could reset it on a week.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. So that's the logic.
Yeah, you could use something like if I think week. Oh, you could say if. Yeah, the way to do it that way would be like if day of week. I think that takes a date parameter. Yeah, day of week date is less than day of week date of embargo. Whoops. Of embargo, rather than the session change. So that way it would reset every Monday, basically, or if Monday happened to be a holiday, it would automatically reset on the Tuesday when the market opened, because the day of week will be less than the day of the week of the last day of the trading week of the prior week.
Right. Now, if it was a, let's say, a session that starts on a Sunday, it would already know on that chart when the session starts, correct?
Correct, because
right. I just wanted to confirm that.
I'm pretty sure, I think this day of week, Sunday is day 0, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just double.
Sunday is 0, correct?
Yeah, Sunday's day 0, so yes, that would still work.
And one thing to keep in mind also is that if you're trying to extend the time period for the VWAP, you have to use the estimated calculation that's in here in this code, which is different than the VWAP reserved word that John was using. When he pulled up the custom one line and he used VWAP, that reserved word just calculates and resets at the beginning of the day. And you cannot change that because that's a quote server calculation.
That's this yellow line.
That yellow line right there, yeah. So if you're trying to change,
so you can see in history, it's always the same. It doesn't have any historical values. It just has today's value, and then today's value gradually builds from the time you apply it.
Right. So if you pull up the code again for the estimated one, and you scroll down a little bit more, this is the piece right there. This is the piece where it calculates VWAP, where you see the variables price
Correct.
W and share W, and then it takes that and divides. That's the piece that we are most interested in if we want to change the way that the VWAP calculates.
Correct. And this is, you see how this is not an equal sign. It's plus equals. And that's sort of the accumulative behavior that I was trying to explain, that I kind of, it's a little hard to explain, but it's continuously adding to the total share count. It keeps adding to it. It's because this is equivalent to saying share W equals share W plus ticks, where ticks is the volume on an intraday chart. So it's gradually accumulating in here over the course of whatever the period is. It could be a week, like Marcel suggested, or a day, which is what this does by default. But it's a good question too for the support forum. Those guys can help with the exact code. If you say, listen, I want basically what amounts to a weekly VWAP. I want to reset first trading day of the week, every week reset and start accumulating again. You could do that.
Yeah. And PSK is asking, can we make the data an input? Most certainly. You can use an input to put in a date on your indicator that it would be considered like a starting point on the calculation, right, John?
Yes. The you could actually put this whole criteria. We do this in some cases, but you can make that whole criteria there an input. So you say, well, look, I'm just going to create an input, a Boolean input that's the reset criteria, and then put this whole expression in there. And then you could change it and have it be, you'd have to spell out the call to current session here if you wanted, because it doesn't know about variables in an input. But in an input, you can have a, let me see if we have one, I think it's called session open, high, low. Oh, maybe it's OHLC yesterday, or I'll have to locate that's not it, but there's a trigger. Sometimes we put things like the calculation trigger. This one uses the session change also, but sometimes you can put stuff like that as an input and put the whole expression in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's called.
I think it's a show. I think
this one here, day open, high, low lines. This guy, I forgot what it was. No, I'm still not sure. We have one where we it's not really complicated. I guess I could just show you. It'd be, so it'd be something like here. You just declare a Boolean input, and you could call it something, like calc trigger or whatever. And then the value could be of calc trigger can be that. And then in your code, you can say, down below, I won't go back down there, but it'd be something, if calc trigger, then whatever you want to do. And then that lets you change the criteria through an input, the entire criteria.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is the power of Easylanguage, right? I mean, this is a little bit interesting in kind of a programming sense, right? In the sense that we're taking an expression here, evaluating the expression on every bar automatically, and assigning the result to an input that we use in the code. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Very
anyway.
Good. John, let me ask you something about, I forgot to ask you before the class started, and Jim reminded me about the updated EA studies, ELD.
Oh, yes.
Did you get a chance to work something out?
I did. I figured out that thing with the pivot high lows, but I still need to send you the ELD.
Yeah. So yeah, if you can send that to me, that'd be great.
Okay.
So
I'll
next
do that
class,
right after
Jim. Yeah,
class.
yeah, Jim. Next class, ask me, or I can email you the updated ELD. If anybody wants it, just send me an email, and I'll make sure that John sends it to me. All right.
We have to
Okay.
get it into the library.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So let's see.
You
What
are
other
correct.
questions?
Thank you, Jim.
What other questions do we have? Anything you guys would like to bring up, it's okay. By the way, there is an event this afternoon at 2 p.m. I'm doing a presentation on radar screen studies. So if you'd like to learn some of the scanning capabilities of radar screen, then you're welcome to join me. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time. And you can register if you go to the events section of youcantrade.com. That's where the event is listed. Tomorrow, as we said earlier, we have Frank Choi at the regular masterclass time, which is 12:30 Eastern time. Make sure to join us and ask him questions about the future of TradeStation, which is Frank Choi is kind of he's a new member of the TradeStation family. I'm not sure. Do you know how long he's been with TradeStation, John? I think John is distracted.
I thought I might be muted. Am I muted?
Oh, all right. Yeah, you were muted, but not anymore.
Okay. No, I'm not sure.
Okay. But we'll have him tomorrow. So will be a great opportunity for you to get to know him, what he does, what he is in charge of, and some of the, impact he can have on bringing in some of the things that you've always wanted to have in TradeStation. So let's make it a great session for him tomorrow. All right, guys. Jim, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, the App Store, is our apps that we got in the App Store, are they turning off in September? I was wondering what's the plan going forward for that? I know we talked about before, but is like that stuff all going to turn into, I mean, I know not all of it, but the few things that TradeStation controls, is that going to turn into easy studies, right in our package, or what?
Yes.
John,
I think,
go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, I think generally, now last time, I think we were talking about the EP, what was the next earnings date?
Yeah.
Studies. And that one, yes, for sure. Now, are there other ones that are of particular interest? Because I think they're working on the list and it's not finalized. So if there are ones that,
I see. And then if they go into our easy language studies, they're going to be open code, right? We'll be able to click on the easy code, or what?
Well, the distribution, I think, is intended to be pretty seamless and still use the underlying infrastructure of that's very similar to the App Store. In other words, it automatically is distributed. You can't open the code, but if you have questions about code, I can help with all of that. So if you say, hey, look, I want a calculation that's similar to this, and we can look and see how that might be done. But I think the distribution will be still the same, way. It's just that it won't come from third parties. That's the real issue that we're trying to solve, is that what for security reasons, it really needs to come from us directly. And this all gets to more and more the as you guys probably hear in the news, internet security type thing considerations are really the key to this whole thing, and who's distributing it, and exactly how do they do the distribution, and does that the code guaranteed more or less, or protected? There's guarantees are very hard to come by, but in technology fields, but that's the purpose of all of the changes, is to make sure that we control the distribution channel completely, more or less.
So will there still be subscriptions and that kind of thing? Or yeah.
I think that part hasn't been worked out yet, but I think no. I think it'll be where the ones that we say, okay, they're included, then you'll just automatically have it, and it'll be more or less, invisible that how it got to you. You won't have to subscribe or unsubscribe or anything. It'll just be there, sort of like all the rest of the built-in stuff.
Yeah.
And so essentially we won't find this stuff anymore, like on a like a app store website.
Correct. All that part, right? All that part goes away, and it comes directly from us.
Yeah.
I see. So it shows up in our studies. That's
correct.
And one thing to also comment on that, and not to raise false expectations, is that all these studies that we're trying to bring over from the trading app store into TradeStation need to go through a contract.
Oh yeah. That's
yeah.
a good point. Thank you.
And just to be very open, because these are products that were not created by TradeStation. These were
That's right. No, that's a good
developers.
point, Jesus. Yeah.
And just to be honest with the team here, the group here in Masterclass, we haven't had the response that we were expecting. So I want everybody to be always aware that you could lose access to some of the studies you are using from the trading app store because of this contractual basis that needs to happen between TradeStation and the developers. So not everything is being transferred over. So
that's right.
Some people may be under the impression that, everything that's free, it's gonna be moved over. But it's not going to be that way. Because,
okay, I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's no. You didn't say anything incorrect, John. It's just
no, but that's a good point. Good point.
Trying to clarify here for the group.
Yeah, and that's also why, if there are ones that you guys are saying, hey, look, I absolutely, I guess I would kind of like to know what those are, because one way or another, it might be a thing where you end up working with the third party directly.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, at least we would know that there was interest in a particular thing.
Yeah. So Philip is making a note of ATR chart display. I'm not sure what that study did differently than anything we have in TradeStation, but he's using an ATR chart display from the trading app store. And
I don't recognize that one. So
okay.
Right.
And for your question, PSK, about having a page where we can find the link to the vendors, if there's anything that you're using that we lose access to, you can email us, and we'll try to find that contact information for the developer to see if he's gonna continue to offer those products for sale on a different platform, because that's also another possibility. A lot of these developers may continue to sell their products, but not through the trading app store. Yeah,
that's right. It's there for those who have been around a long time, like me.
and me.
That's right. The model could revert to something like what we did before we had the app store. So prior to the app store, developers would create an ELD, they'd have their own website, and you would interact with the developer directly or the developer's company and get an ELD file that contains certain studies and so on and so forth. So you'd work directly, and that kind of model could be re-implemented. In fact, I know some third parties are doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, Philip, if this indicator that shows the ATR on the top right corner of a chart may be something that our team can help you create, like a custom study. So make sure that you post that in the forums, and we can probably, or the team, can probably create something for you to use and not have to depend on a trading app store study.
Yes.
Perfect.
That might be a good question for Easy Language Answer.
Yes, right? Yeah, correct. Like, I think the indicator he's pointing to, I think it just plots the ATR as a number on the top right corner of the
Oh,
chart.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. We can do stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
we can
if
definitely
you want, we can look at that in the next class or something.
Yeah, so send me an email on that because it seems like it's something that we can create very easily.
Yeah, it's
And
not too
it'll be
bad. Not too bad. Just
it'll be
take
a
the
great,
ATR indicator and add a text object to it.
yeah, it'd be a great example to show here in class. So let's do that instead, right?
Is all this App Store stuff then going to be all, I mean, is it all this happening in September or is the timetable longer now?
I don't know. I don't have the specifics on the time. Not sure when it's going to be cut off. I know that current subscriptions were kept, but I don't have any information as to how long they'll be, kept.
I don't either. I'm not positive on the dates, but I do know they're trying to update that. If you go to the Trading App Store website, there should be, kind of periodic updates there that say, look, here's the kind of the timetable and so forth.
Yeah. Phil is just commenting that he used to be a solutions provider and he sat down with Bill Cruz. So I think Phil goes as back as we do, John.
Yes. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. So like let me see if I go to TradeStation Trading App Store. Let's see if I've got that here. Yeah.
I don't think it's is it accessible?
I think there's a note here, and this might be what
Okay.
the September date, because as Jim was saying, I think this is the September date that Jim was referring to. So yeah, I think they're trying to keep this kind of updated with the dates.
Well, if we have the, I guess it would be cool then if we need something, then maybe we make it or get it, we figure out a way of making it with the easy code.
Yes. Although I have to say that some of the products are very, very complex, or were very complex. So there are some that definitely, like the one that we were just talking about with the ATR with the text label, is not difficult, but there were some that were quite complex.
Usually in trading, if it's complex, it don't make money. So
interesting point.
I mean, that's what traders that they're supposedly really good say. They say keep it simple.
All right, I think that's all the questions that we had, John.
All right.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
It's more of a wish list type of situation. And it's more like, how like if you have global cursor,
Yeah.
we do something like if you put something on a chart like a trend line or something, that it could be, and I know it's like a far off wish, but it can show up in a universal fashion. Like you draw and plot the indicator on one chart, it shows up on other charts. Again, I know it's long. I just need to share that.
That is something that we've taken a bit of a look at. I don't have it, any kind of timeline on that sort of feature, but it is known to us that people would like a feature like that. The closest we've come, kind of in the meantime, and I guess I can illustrate it quickly here, but is if we, draw just like a trend line here on this chart, like that, right? And then we say, boy, I want to change this. I also want a 1 minute chart or a 5 minute chart, but I want that same trend line. Then, well, the easiest thing, and this doesn't always work because you might have the chart set up differently, but is to copy and paste a window and then take this new window, and I'll arrange these side by side, but in the new window, and let me make this a little thicker so that we can see it when we change the bar interval. And then if you say, okay, oh gee, I want to go to a 1 minute bar here over on this chart, then the trend line's still there, and it has switched to the new bar interval but that's just because I copied and pasted the entire chart. So in other words, a new chart, the copied and pasted chart does contain the drawing objects, and they'll be retained. The drawing object is retained through a change of the bar interval. So, but that's one way to create charts with the same drawing objects of multiple bar intervals. Copy and paste.
That's kind of a workaround, right, John?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, true.
But the feature is known to us, or the desire for the feature.
Now, Steve is asking, indicators that they probably see on other platforms. How do they bring it to our attention to see if something similar could be added to TradeStation? I think it's important for us to know how that indicator is calculated in order for us to create it here, right, John?
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And that's really all you need. So if you say, listen, here's the formula that I want. It's the close of the current bar minus the low of the last, or whatever. As long as you know that formula, we can help you in the support forum to make an indicator that plots it. But sometimes people will say, well, I kind of want this study, but we don't know exactly how that's calculated. So then that's hard. That's the hard one.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Yeah. And a lot of these calculations that are performed in other platforms may be copyrighted, and
that's right.
and they may not be willing to share the code, and that's a challenge, But if you know how the indicator is calculated, what it's based on, and you're just, wanting the look of it to be similar over in TradeStation, then that's something that's probably easy to duplicate.
Yes, that's right. Or if it's along those same lines, I guess I would say is that some of them are really just kind of like, I guess I want to say fairly straightforward, real easy. Like, oh, gee, I just need the range of the bar, the high minus. Those kinds of things are very easy to replicate.
Yeah.
Where they might have a little range indicator, a little spread between the bid and ask, or those kinds of things. Very easy to reproduce.
I think Phil is just sharing some indicators that were in the trading app store that are probably going to be available on TradeStation. Most of the ones that were provided by TradeStation Labs or TradeStation University, those are either probably available for us to send to you, or if we want them to be on the platform, I'll just talk to John to see if we can incorporate them. But yeah, those studies will definitely make it to the platform, right? At least the ones that are university. Is that something in the work? Do you know anything about that, John?
I'm not sure how the list has evolved. Yeah, we'd have to talk to those guys. Yeah.
But after September, if you're looking for something that it's not there anymore, and it's something that TradeStation provided, whether it's through TradeStation Labs
that
or
I agree with.
TradeStation University, then just let me know, and I'll try to find it. If I cannot find it, I'll ask John to see if it's really hard to duplicate, and we'll work together, to have all those indicators on the platform.
We've done that before.
Yes, for sure. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you so much for your participation. John, your input is always appreciated. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jesus.
Okay, remember that this afternoon at 2, we have a webinar, so check the events page on youcantrade.com. And tomorrow, again, I said it at the beginning, I said it in the middle, and I'll say it at the end again. We have Frank Choi at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Join me tomorrow for me to introduce him to you, okay? Thanks, guys, for being here. Thanks for your support. Have a great weekend if I don't see you.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later. Goodbye, everyone.